But now she's.
Okay. Okay.
I'd like to call the town council regular meeting for June 6th, 2022 to order. Roll call, please.
Counselor Schoen,
Present.
Counselor Mellon,
Present.
Counselor Tulowitzki,
Present.
Counselor Kulturitis is excused, Counselor Gardner.
Present. If we can all rise for a moment of silence and then the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time of the meeting, we have public comment. We kindly ask that in-person public comment is limited to 2 minutes maximum per person or 5 minutes for a group spokesman. And then we ask that you keep your comments civil and constructive to public policy issues. Public comments may also be submitted electronically. If you have questions or comments about an item on the agenda that you would like to have entered into the meeting minutes, please email that question and comment to Town Manager Dustin Anderson at danderson@munster.org. Is there anybody here that would like to speak before the council? And when we ask that you speak, just name your, please list your name and your address prior to speaking.
Mike Dumovic, 1833 Tulip Lane. I got a few questions. Number one, is it legal to operate golf carts in the town of Munster on the streets?
No.
No? Well, somebody is. Because we were at Bluebird Park and somebody comes zipping in with their golf cart. Second one, I'm going to add, this is about your parking meters at Centennial. And I'll start off with the first thing. Should I just direct all my questions to the Parks Department?
I think that's appropriate, yes.
Okay, then I'll save you all the trouble of what I was going to talk about. And I'll just send them to them. Bye.
Thanks, Mike. Anybody else that would like to speak before the council? Yes, sir.
Ed Pulowski, 8827 Madison Court. Well, we've been living here since hot 86, a little while. Would have been since 76 if I would have listened to my buddy Jim. But anyway, I'm concerned about the density housing going in. They talk about the new train station and the housing going around it. You got train stations in Hagwish, nothing got built up around there. Okay, train stations in Hammond, nothing got built up. Train station in East Chicago, nothing got built up. So it's just a matter of, I'm not going to be around probably when this stuff is built. I just got concerns about that housing going in. So just want to make a point of it.
What housing are you talking about? There's,
Well,
you talking about Ridge Road? I mean,
Yeah.
are you concerned about Ridge Road or Main Street?
well, not only that, but maybe the area just south of that dialysis center, just east of Sheffield Avenue, in that area. So
Thank you, Ed.
it's just something to talk about.
Okay, thanks, appreciate it. Other comments, questions?
My name is Julie O'Connor, and the address I'm here to talk about is at 434 South Street. I really didn't prepare any remarks, but I just feel weary that it's been years later. I feel like I've been having the same discussions and getting the same responses for years. I do not think residential property should have been put into the TDD. I do think that the residents who own property, any property owners, really should have been notified. And this is not a new comment.
Thank you. Other comments or questions from the public? Going once, going twice, anybody else? Okay, we'll close the public input session. And we'll move on to the consent agenda.
Mr. President, I move we accept the consent agenda.
Very good, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Schoen,
Yes.
Counselor Mellon,
Yes.
Counselor Tulowitzki,
Yes.
and Counselor Gardner.
Yes.
4-0.
Moving on to old items under old business, ordinance 1863. This is the amending the plan for the use of American Recovery Plan funds. It was presented and approved at first reading last month. Clerk Treasurer Miss, anything to add?
Nope, this is just the second reading, and this just specifically earmarks $2.5 million for to help keep our rates down, our utility rates down. Sorry, I'm just
Very good.
paying attention to this.
Mr. President, I move to adopt ordinance 1863 as presented.
I'll second.
There's a motion, a second. Any discussion from the council? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Schoen,
Yes.
Counselor Mellon,
Yes.
Counselor Tulowitzki,
Yes.
Counselor Gardner.
Yes. The second item under the agenda for old business is ordinance 1868, which is the amending the police department special revenue fund 293. That was presented to us and approved on first reading last month. Is there anything else to add, Clerk Treasurer Miss?
There is nothing else to add to that. It's just no changes were made.
Very good.
Mr. President, I move that we adopt ordinance 1868 on second reading.
And I'll second that.
Very good. There's a motion, a second. Any comments or discussion items? None? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Schoen,
Yes.
Counselor Mellon,
Yes.
Counselor Tulowitzki,
Yes.
Counselor Gardner.
Yes. Moving under items for new business, ordinance 1869. This is authorizing the metered parking. Clerk Treasurer Miss, anything to add or any clarifications, or do we want to direct anything to Mr. Westland for clarifications or overview?
This is just, this is making an ordinance that allows the town to accept and charge the fees involved with parking at Centennial Park.
And these were the fees that were
They're in the original contract that was negotiated, and that process went to the park board. The town council passed a resolution accepting the contract, and this is just making it into a formal ordinance. And we can expect to see an ordinance perhaps in 2 weeks already to formalize the fine portion, but this is just the authority to charge a fee. Mr. Westland?
So, yeah, what this ordinance does is it codifies the agreement you have with ASTA. And by statute, you need to establish the metered spaces, which this does in section 2. And then in section 3 talks about the fund that you established with the clerk treasurer previously. Section 4 then establishes the hourly and daily rates that were previously approved by the park board and then by resolution of the council.
very good. I see also that this is, we're being asked to suspend the rules and waive the readings to adopt on first reading. Is there, again, mainly just is a timing issue?
It's a timing issue, yes, so that we can move forward sooner than later with the paid parking.
So the actions before the council's for 2 items that are being recommended.
Yes, please.
Mr. President, I move that we suspend the rules and waive the readings to adopt ordinance 1869 as presented on the first reading tonight.
There's
I'll
a
second that.
motion, a second. Any discussion with regards to item number 1? The motion on the table.
Mr. President, I just make the comment that I continue to be not supportive of the whole effort, so that will inform my vote tonight. Based on previous discussion.
There's a motion on the table. A roll call, please.
Counselor Schoen.
Yes.
Counselor Mellon.
Yes.
Counselor Tulowitzki.
No.
Counselor Gardner.
Yes. Since that is a motion for suspending the rules, we cannot suspend the rules and approve that on first read tonight. However, I would ask the council to consider making a reading or making a motion to adopt the ordinance on first read so we can listen and make second read on the next council meeting on June 20th.
We can't.
Everything you said was correct, except you used the word adopt, so it'd be, you're just moving to accept it on first reading and set for whatever day, June 20th is your next meeting, for second reading.
I stand corrected.
Mr. President, I move that we accept ordinance 1869 on first reading as presented and set it for a meeting for June 20th for second.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
Yes.
Motion a second. Any discussion? Very good. Roll call, please.
Counselor Schoen.
Yes.
Counselor Mellon.
Yes.
Counselor Tulowitzki.
No.
Counselor Gardner.
Yes. So we'll have ordinance 1869 read on second reading on June 20th. Moving on to resolution, item B, resolution 2095, waiver of fee for a national night out event. There's a memo in front of us.
There is a memo in front of us. Officer Geist is always looking for ways to improve and enhance National Night Out. And he would like to encourage neighborhoods to have block parties on the Saturday before National Night Out, which is July, not National Night Out is August 2nd, but this would be Saturday, July, was it 29th, 30th, Saturday. So as part of that, he is respectfully asking the town council to waive the damage deposit of $250 and the fee for $100 for public works employees to deliver the traffic barricades to the individual block party addresses.
Mr. President, I move that we adopt resolution 2095 as presented.
I'll second the motion.
There's a motion, a second. Any discussion?
I'm not happy with the idea of not requiring the deposit, which would be returned. The full $250 would be returned if there was no problem. But if the town was required to clean up afterwards, or any damage was made to picnic tables or things of that sort, we would have that source of income to pay for those problems if there were any. It wouldn't cost the residents a single penny extra. And so I would be happier if the motion did not include the waiver of the $250. But I'm not, if there's no support for that, I'm not going to go ahead and make an amendment.
Is there support for keeping the $250 damage deposit, refundable damage deposit, included in the process? Is that the right way to say it?
You make a good point, because if one particular party goes crazy and damages something,
Could
it could, I mean,
Even in Munster.
it is refundable. That would probably not be, usually a damage deposit isn't cash either. You know what I mean? It can be just
For
held.
most people would get the full $250 back, and there'd be no extra charge for doing it. But it does, I think when you realize that you could lose $250 if you leave a mess, it's an extra incentive to clean up and not require Public Works to go in and do a cleanup afterwards.
It's true.
Do we have an idea of how many parties have been?
Not yet.
I believe Officer Grace was waiting for this before he started promoting it.
But I can see waiving the fee. Because we're asking them to do it on a particular day because of the National Night Out. And it's going to increase a sense of belonging to the community, which I think is great.
In my view, we're talking about one night, July 30th, and trying to remove barriers to block parties. I think if it were a more pervasive policy where we wouldn't have a security deposit more than just in this one evening, then I think I would agree with you. I do sort of agree with you for the one night, but I think all that we can do just to promote people actually getting together, putting these applications in, I'm okay with waiving the $250 fee as was presented.
When people make their application done, we'll say, please clean up.
We'll underscore the word please.
Well, we can,
Okay.
when we can evaluate it if we have
Okay.
several, maybe that's a compromise to look at it. If something goes crazy this year, then we reinstate it.
We could call it the honor system for this year.
Very good. I see that there's it seems like the motion seems like it's going to stay as it is. Is there any other further discussion with regards to this? And roll call, please.
To clarify, we're waiving both the deposit and the delivery fee. Counselor Schoen,
Yes.
Counselor Mellon,
Yes.
Counselor Tulowitzki,
Yes.
Counselor Gardner.
Yes. Moving along to item C, the Sam Shorts Consulting LLC Munster Raise Grant Assistance Change Order. Mr. Anderson, anything to add to the change order in the amount of $891.23?
No, just a little bummed out that Windy gets to lower utility bills, waive fees, all the good news, and here I have to spend more money. We did go over budget on a not to exceed 10,000 by $891.23, and we would like your permission to pay the consultant.
Mr. Anderson, if I could, we'll put rub a little salt, it's 83 cents.
Oh.
So, and another 50 cents is just gonna tip us 60 cents.
Okay.
Tip us.
I appre-
891.83.
Yes, please.
83, okay, 83.
Yes.
Very good. Is there action from the council?
Mr. President, I move to approve the additional expense of $891.83 payable to Sam Schwartz Engineering.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion, a second. Any discussion?
Whoever, if you're reading this memo, I think it's a nice reminder that we have engaged Sam Schwartz for this work, anyone involved in the streetscape project. This is a chance, it's got quite a hefty fee and it's gonna make a huge difference in town. It was my parents' 52nd anniversary today, and I got to show them all the tulips in town, driving from Giovanni's over to here. They like them, everyone likes them, and this is a chance to really make the feeling of the tulips permanent in town. It's $34 million that we're going for with this grant. So just did I get the number?
It's a big number.
It's a large number.
Not 34 million.
And this,
60 cents.
it might be off by 60 cents or so. So anyway, this is an exciting project, and I'm happy to support Sam Schwartz and the good work they're doing.
Very good. Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Counselor Schoen.
Yes.
Counselor Mellon,
Yes.
Counselor Tulowitzki.
Yes.
And Counselor Gardner.
Yes. Item number D, Resolution 2096, in support of the approval of the Ridge Road and Munster Dyer Transit Development Districts. Mr. Anderson, any background information from the memo and the supporting documentation in the board packet?
Well, the background is very long, and there are many people in the room very conversant in it. The broadest strokes is when the Northern Indiana Commuter Transit District was rounding up the funding to construct their rail project, in this case, double track in the Westlake extension. A portion of the funds were secured through the state of Indiana. And when the state of Indiana made available that funding, they also created the potential creation of transit development districts. And they gave the RDA the authority to administer those. So a transit development district is a financial instrument that allows municipalities to capture both the real estate and the income increment on new development within the district station area, right? So a station area can be a half mile of contiguous property. So there's a graphic in the first page of the memo there. There's also volumes of information on the RDA's website about the process the RDA has undertaken to define these districts in conjunction with different municipalities. So in Munster, there would be 2 districts. There will be 2 stations. One is at Ridge Road, the Ridge Road area. I'm going to pause and just really quickly tab over to the Ridge Road state proposed TDD boundary. If you're following along on your phone or your computer or online in any way, this is Exhibit A, attachment Exhibit A, and the net amount of property here is a half mile, little less than was it 364 acres. So the long and short of it is development that would occur here within these the green shaded area. So the increment on property and income would be captured and would be accounted for separately and expended exclusively in this district, right? So it wouldn't go into a fund somewhere that's administered by the RDA and then spent by the RDA's discretion. It's accounted for discreetly, just like the one on Main Street would be. So if there was $2 of increment in the Munster Ridge Road area, that $2 would be spent within this Munster Ridge Road, and the accounting would be very clear. So Council is being asked by the RDA to concur and support the boundaries that have been proposed by the RDA. If Council chooses to do so, the RDA will have 2 public hearings, one in June, one in July, and adopt these boundaries as presented. And then they would go down to the State Budget Committee, and the State Budget Committee would review and then establish these. So that's the question before you here is, do you agree with the boundaries? That's the specific question. There's all kinds of general questions that you can get into as the policy-making body, but that's the decision point that the RDA is looking for the town of Munster to make. There are 8 of these, 8 communities. More than half have completed this work already, if not more. So it's really up to the council what you want to do with this.
Mr. President.
Sure,
Hey, Deb.
yes.
So, and this was when we had our TD steering committee last time, it was in May, and there was some concern that this was being asked to be passed so quickly. It was from Hammond, the representative from Hammond. He asked, and so did I. And so I guess since not everybody has concluded this process, is it a matter of waiting till next year for the budget committee, like the next group will go? And so so that's a yes. It would be a.
If I understand your question correctly, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, sure, that's fine. So that would be a year. And then since the train isn't operational yet, I know there's being some interest in development, but what is the downside if we are unable to approve these boundaries tonight and wait an extra year?
I mean, any downside or upside is all hypothetical, right? If I knew what would and would not happen in commercial real estate, I wouldn't drive a 2007 Chevy. But very, very accurate. If this is the window right now, and if it misses the State Budget Committee, they won't convene until next year. So what's the problem there? One potential pitfall of not passing this in this particular cycle of the Budget Committee is, and this is contingent too, this isn't a sure thing either, but there is a significant commercial development in the Lansing Country Club area that will have likely, if it's successful, if all parties agree, and those are two ifs right there, and Dave and I could add a bunch more ifs. But if that does come to term in the interim, and that boundary has not been established, it's a possibility that the kinds of higher paying jobs wouldn't be captured in this increment, nor would the development be.
Because
But
it would come after it had been established. Well,
potentially,
potentially.
Yeah.
But at the same, well, if it was built before, then the increment, you can get that big capture, especially like you said, Lansing Country Club. I guess, and I know, probably thinking, I've been here for a long time, so why, there's questions now, but the more that this process has gone on, though we've said, so there's residential property, to Ms. O'Connor's comment. There's residential property covered in this. Now, while it will not, cannot be taken by eminent domain, cannot is the proper, correct?
cannot
Cannot be taken by eminent domain. The property will most likely become much more valuable, those individual home lots. So the concern I have, it's twofold. So if, say I have a neighbor in that block, there are three of us, and we say, we're going to sell, and it's been zoned, so it could be multifamily or whatever, which we have pulled back on that, and we're looking at that at the master plan, which is going to include the public, and that's coming up this summer. But they could build on that, and you might have it just be really mismatched because it's not on the main corridor, it's within your neighborhood.
It would be a conditional use, so that couldn't happen without an affirmative vote of council.
Right. And I guess this is where, when we started this process, it was told over and over, and which I do believe this, that town has ultimate control. RDA has the funding. However, they don't have, so if we come up with a project that we like and we think that is most beneficial to our residents, they can say, yeah, that doesn't fit our vision, so no, we're not going to fund it. So then we'd have to come up with the money ourselves, which we may decide to do, but we'll have, we have a limited bucket. So my fear, all of us could be sitting here in 2 years, none of us, some of us, who knows? But if we get to the point where the RDA is saying no, because we've seen their vision, and I keep seeing what's presented, and it's going in one path. It's infill, it's density, and even though we'll say, hey, how about something else? It's kind of the soup du jour of the planning world today. In 10 years, they might say, oh no, that was a bad idea, but that's what's being pushed all across the nation right now. And I'm just afraid that people, whoever it may be sitting here or on our plan commission might say, well, they don't want to fund the other project, but they'll fund this one. How can we give up that money? Look at all the money. And I'm afraid that the focus is going to be on the money and not what is best, especially since we're in the residential areas. And this is just over the time, this is just something that has come more to light in building. So I want to vocalize that because I don't know if maybe we are best suited to have those single family homes, especially taken out of that. Because if a condo or something sells, or an entire complex, which I believe it has a couple of those in it, well, that would be based upon the people who live there together, but it wouldn't be individual. So I don't know. I just think it's something to really think about. I'm getting a little concerned about what will be funded and what not, and how our control might be limited in a roundabout way. If that makes any sense.
Good. Any other comments before we entertain a recommendation?
I have a question. Can I?
I'm sorry, ma'am, but the public input session was prior to the meeting.
Oh, well, that,
And we would be happy to answer any
Was
questions
not
after the
there
meeting,
before.
but we can't take questions during the meeting. This is a council meeting at this time. We have the public input in front, and also I'm more than happy to stick around afterwards to
Okay.
answer any questions you might have. Yes, other comments or questions from the council?
I guess just to address some thinking on the residential property that was mentioned. Thought is, don't necessarily want to start making exceptions for, this lot or other lots from the proposal, from the work that's been done. And the thinking is, if you own a property there and someone would like to develop it because there's an economic tool called the TDD, which could be beneficial for them as a private developer, then they will make an offer and you can say no, and then they'll make a higher offer and a higher offer. And the hardship is you end up needing to say no to more and more lucrative offers from people who are interested in this land, and they'd be more interested because they have an economic tool or an incentive to develop that property. As opposed to if you have a land that is outside the TDD, they'll be less interested. So that's some of the thinking behind the comment that was made earlier. Just not thinking that this is necessarily an economic hardship for being part of the TDD, but could actually be an increase in property values that are included.
I would think that our zoning law that was passed by the previous council would sort of preclude that. Any property owner can make changes as long as they comply with the existing zoning laws. And anybody can go to the BZA and request a variance, but I'm not sure that being in the TDD and being able to make more money is a hardship that the BZA would recommend.
Probably an imprecise word to say hardship.
I don't think of economics as a hardship in this case, but I'm not on the BZA.
With regards to the property that's along Ridge Road, that residential property, is there a special zoning classification with those items compared to other residential property in town?
I don't have the zoning in front of me, but I do know, to Councilor Mellon's point, that any kind of mixed use, we did take legislative action, I believe it was earlier this year or late last year, where any mixed use development is now considered a conditional use. So whereas it was by right, so regardless of where it was, if it was zoned that you could do it if you met all the requirements, now it's not. So you would have that petitioner, if they did want to do something along those lines in an area, first they'd have to get through the plan commission, and then they would have to come before council and win a majority vote of council.
And before any of that happens, the property owner would need to make a deal to sell the property.
Yes.
And that's what I was just concerned about. If a block of residents said, hey, this is great, we're gonna make a ton of money, but others said, I kind of enjoyed my single family neighborhood and now I'm going to have to sell, like maybe they'll make a lot of money doing it, but it doesn't mean you want to move, you know? So I'm just wondering, I see some may be thinking, keep that in there because I want to sell, I want to make a lot of money, but and then also, like I said, ordinances can be amended, anything can be done, it all is depending on who's sitting up here, and whoever that may be in the future, I just hope that people don't get caught up in big numbers only, and I hope that they look at the overall good of our community.
Very good. Yeah. And I think then to underscore, it is I guess we already said this, but the conditional use that we put in means that the council and plan commission has control over what gets developed in those areas.
And again, what's before the council tonight is the Resolution 2096, which is in consideration of the TDD districts down at the Ridge Road and Munster Dyer Transportation Development Districts. Really, this is just giving our support to these maps that for a large part, had been out in the public eye for about, I know I attended my first meeting, I think it was March of 2020, looking at these maps. So for a good part, and I believe that RDA has had a number of public input sessions, probably in the neighborhood of 15 to 18 of them along the way. Not all of those have been in Munster, those have been throughout the area, but I know there was 2 specifically for the Munster areas back in 2020. So I would ask the council to look at the recommendation and that we make a decision one way or the other with regards to the recommendation.
Mr. President, I move that we approve resolution 2096, a resolution in support of the approval of the Ridge Road and Munster Dio Transit Development Districts.
There's a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Schoen,
Yes.
Counselor Mellon,
No,
Counselor Tulowitzki,
Yes.
Counselor Gardner.
Yes. Moving on to item E under new business, disposal of surplus property.
More fund from the clerk treasurer's office. We have been going through and we've identified numerous outdated, obsolete, and just no longer operational items. And so we're requesting, as with all public taxpayer purchased items, we're requesting permission from council to properly dispose of the listed items.
Very good.
Mr. President, I move to declare the listed equipment surplus and authorize its disposal.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion, a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Schoen.
Yes.
Counselor Mellon.
yes,
Counselor Tulowitzki.
Yes.
Counselor Gardner.
Yes. Item F, disposal of seized vehicles. Is there anything to add, Chief? There's a memo in front of us. Disposal of a 2007 Dodge Grand Caravan, 2007 Chevy Impala. These seized vehicles were only allowed to be in our fleet for up to 3 years, and then they must be sold, and that's where we're at right now with that portion of it. So
That is correct.
okay, thanks, Chief.
Mr. President, I move to grant the police department the authority to reduce our fleet of the items listed.
I'll second the motion.
There's a motion, a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Schoen.
Yes.
Counselor Mellon.
Yes,
Counselor Tulowitzki.
Yes.
And Counselor Gardner.
Yes. Are there any reports?
I do. I have one.
Wendy?
Actually, I have 2 items, but one
Okay.
reports.
Okay.
As many of you know, I am our representative on NERC, and NERC has returned to meeting in person. I'm also not only our town appointed on NERC, but I'm also on the executive board and on the personnel and finance committees. At our most recent executive board meeting, just so you guys are kept up with what's happening, NDOT did a presentation and they talked about bike safety and the program they have in collaboration with the schools. So I notified the president of the school board of the possibility of this program, and she was going to follow up on it. And NERC is also providing small business loans, and you can go to their website and see how to apply for them. And they're also just trying to raise awareness in the general public of what NERC is and what they do. Fortunately, Mr. Anderson and myself have great relationships with them, as well as our fire chief, et cetera. So we're pleased from our leadership standpoint, but just make sure council knows that they're a tool and the residents know that they're a tool that we can use. And that segues me into just to put onto your radar, NERC will be providing a grant for to upgrade for Opticom, which are the signals used by emergency vehicles. And so we're working with several communities in the area to apply for that grant collectively. So we're still in the talking stages. It looks as though Munster will take lead on that grant application. And so we'll be coming to you at some point as more information is known. So we're excited about the opportunity. We'll see where that goes.
Very good, thank you. Any other reports, portfolio reports, anybody?
Yeah, I'd like to give a report from the Lake County Solid Waste Management District Board. So as Councilor Schoon has mentioned before, the board was in need of a new location and searched for and found a new location for the Lake County Solid Waste Management District organization. It is on Maryville, on Broadway in Maryville. It's the old Girl Scouts building. And so we also had our first in-person meeting at the new facility. And it's quite a nice facility, nice location. And I think the spirit of having it have been a Girl Scouts building is quite interesting. The purpose of that board in the building is really to bring kids in and bring in kids from schools to get educated on recycling and waste management and sustainability. And one of the things we approved at the board is working with the Van Ryn Architects and Mixed Design. Had quite a compelling presentation. You know, it's a building that needs to be updated and public space. I wasn't really expecting anything that fancy, but Mixed Design is the one that has done all the work at Fair Oaks Farms. So they've done the swine exhibit and the cow exhibit. For their swine exhibit, they had Kevin Bacon, for example, come in for a presentation. So we were thinking beautiful garbage, if we can have garbage, do a tour here. I'm joking a little bit, but there were a lot of creative ideas, and I think it's going to be a really cool facility, much better centrally located for all of Lake County than all the way up by Wolf Lake and Hammond. So quite some exciting developments in the solid waste arena this month.
Very good. Thank you. Councilor Mellon, you have a report.
I do. I just want, we have several in the audience tonight, so I just want to, I'm sure you've noticed the tulips that the Munster Civic Foundation, the project that we've been working on, and I wanted to let everyone know that the plaques, they were out, they're being put out now. I think there's still a few more to be put out. The maps are available at munster.org, so if you go on there, you can find the, I believe it says street map, art in bloom, and there are two that could not go out. Two of them could not, they weren't finished for different reasons, but they will be coming soon. And we have two new sponsors because we had a couple extra tulips. So those will be going out toward the end of June. There will also be coming soon, the bios for the artist. So keep looking back at the website, scanning the QR on the map that you see, and we will be featuring different artists so you can learn more about the people and the people who created them and the sponsors that made it possible. So I hope everybody's enjoying it. And
special thanks to you, Councilor Mellon, for all your hard work and dedication in doing that process. It wasn't just 1 week that you put into that. It's been a lot of time. So thank you for your efforts. Any other comments with regards to portfolio reports and other announcements? Monday, June 20th will be our next regular Town Council and Redevelopment Commission. There'll be a meeting on a special night on Wednesday, July 6th, due to the July 4th holiday. July 6th will be a regular Town Council and Redevelopment Commission meeting, and also July 18th, which is the regular Monday night, regular Town Council and Redevelopment Commission. Any other, if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. So moved. Second. Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
And we will head right into our redevelopment commission meeting, which will be a relatively short meeting. And then if there are some questions, I'll be happy to answer the question that you have. As we enter, as our school board member, John Castro, comes to the dais,
Man, saying Diaz for. Come on now.
Sorry. Whatever. Okay, but I call this the redevelopment, Town of Munster Redevelopment Commission regular meeting to order for July 6th. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Schoon,
Present.
Commissioner Mellon,
Present.
Commissioner Tulowitzki,
Present.
Commissioner Kulturitis is not here, Commissioner Gardner,
Present.
and as mentioned, our school board liaison, John Castro.
I am present.
Yay, nice to see you.
Nice to see you all.
Very good. There's public comment for the redevelopment commission. If there's anything for the redevelopment commission you'd like to come to the forefront, public comment is for 2 minutes maximum per person or 5 minutes per group spokesman. Is there anybody here in the public that would like to speak to the Munster Redevelopment Commission? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment section. Items, next item on the agenda is consent agenda.
Mr. President, we accept the consent agenda.
I'll second. There's a motion, a second, any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Schoon.
Yes.
Commissioner Mellon.
Yes.
Commissioner Tulowitzki.
Yes.
And Commissioner Gardner.
Yes. There is no old business, nor is there any new business, no reports, any announcements? See no announcements, I'm entertaining a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
There's a motion. Second.
I'll draw out a second so John feels he was here for a while.
Very good. There is a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
That ends the Munster Redevelopment Commission meeting for June
Thank you,
6th.
John.
All right. Thanks.
I don't suppose I missed anything.